Good morning, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. Earlier this year, we launched this interactive web series as a new way to communicate with you, our customer. It was received so well that we decided to continue this series as a part of InMotion. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the front line who made such great sacrifices during the COVID-19 crisis and continue to do so for the betterment of our community. We'd also like to thank the advocates and resources who support the wheelchair community. During this year's InMotion, we are privileged to share some of their stories in a new way. We're going to continue our second Coffee with Craig series by introducing you to Katherine Magnoli. Katherine, who likes to go by Kat, lives in the Miami-Dade region of Florida and has dedicated her life to advocacy of those with disabilities. Kat is making positive changes in her community for herself and all of those living with a disability in South Florida. Good morning, Kat. Welcome to Coffee with Craig.
Good morning, Craig, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Kat, can you spend a little bit of time sharing your backstory? What is it that started you on your path to disability advocacy?
Well, what started me on my path is actually I was looking for something to fill my time, and someone suggested that I volunteer at a school called Kesher LD for children with learning disabilities. Now, I had a mix of emotions. I was excited but nervous because I hadn't been around people with disabilities for a very long time, and I wasn't sure I was up for the job. But when I went in, I saw all the kids' faces, and they each came up and introduced themselves, and I was hooked immediately. And I just loved it so much, and it was just a great experience.
Great. So, Katherine, you mentioned before that being around all of those kids, you also learned that a lot of them were being bullied, just as you were when you were a child. And that prompted you to write your series of books called Cat Girl, correct?
Yes, actually it really did. I remember specifically there was a girl in the class that was being bullied, and she came in one day, and me and the two other teachers that were in the class sat there, and we each told her what we really liked about her, and we lifted her spirits. And I just really connected with her after that day and realized that she was being bullied in a very similar way that I was. So it prompted me to want to do something to make a difference and teach children about disability in a fun and yet educational way. So that's what prompted me to write The Adventures of Cat Girl, which is a story about a superhero in a wheelchair that helps kids who are being bullied.
Oh, great. Now, it's my understanding that the series contains 10 books, of which you've had how many of them published?
I've had 4 published.
Oh, okay.
So far. Yes.
That's great. That's great. And you actually have a new series which we'll talk a little bit later about that you have been introducing people to on your Facebook page, correct?
Yes.
Great. So opportunities to continue advocacy can come out of nowhere. I know that you have a relationship with the local mayor. Can you tell us about how you met him and what you were able to accomplish together?
So I met him one day. I called up his office and I asked for a meeting, and they immediately said yes. And it was an interesting situation because he came out into the lobby and he was like, okay, so let's have our meeting here. And I was like, no, let's go in your office. And so we went in his office, and I was like, look, I just want to go to the beach. And he was like, and so why don't you? And I was like, because I don't have access to go. So I was very blunt and upfront with him, and he thanked me for educating him on something that he didn't understand. And we worked together within a 3-week time frame where I sent him all the information about Moby mats, how much they cost, the length of them that's allowed on a beach. And within 3 weeks, he had them in Sunny Isles. And then a couple of months later, I met with another mayor of Bal Harbour. His name is Gabe Groisman, and he and I met by chance when he was working at a law firm that I was speaking at, and he loved what I said about the beach mats, so he asked me to actually speak at the town hall meeting, and from there, we spent the next 9 months working together to get 6 beaches from Bal Harbour to Surfside, which is the neighboring town, to have beach mats. So it was
Wow.
really amazing.
That sounds like a lot of hard work, but it's certainly worth the time, especially since you're a lover of the beach, correct?
Yes, I do love the beach, and I'm very excited that they're opening up now here in
Now,
South Florida.
that's great. Now, I see you're very well spoken, and that's no surprise because you used to host your own radio show for people with disabilities. Can you tell us a little bit about your radio show?
So my radio show is hosted by myself and my friend Douglas Longini. It was on the WEI network that was run by Peter Ween. And it was called Behind the Chair. And every week on Wednesdays at 5 p.m., we would interview someone with or without a disability that was out there just fighting the good fight for inclusion. And it was such a blast. It was so much fun. We would ask a series of questions about the person's advocacy. And then the last like 10, 15 minutes, we would do behind the chair questions. That we would ask more like silly questions, like, you know, if you could meet anybody past or present that was an advocate, who would you talk to? And then sometimes we would ask people in wheelchairs, you know, have you ever used your disability as a way to pick up someone from the opposite sex? So we would ask a series of silly questions. It was a lot of fun.
Great, great. I also understand that you had an opportunity to work with a local school district on a project. Can you tell us about that experience?
Well, long story short, many years ago, I met my mentor. His name is Dave Lawrence, and he connected me to the Superintendent Exceptional Student Education Advisory Board of Miami-Dade Public School District. And I've been able to work with them in many ways to get my books in the schools. But this time I actually had come up with a program called, at the time it was called the Abilities Program, but I actually changed it to Abilities Program. And they loved the idea, but they didn't want to use the whole program. They just wanted to use activities. So I worked with them for the next couple of months, and we were able to kind of narrow down the activities, and then they were used for Disability Awareness Month and Inclusion Week in 2018. So
Wow,
it was
that
so
sounds
much
fantastic.
fun. It was such an honor.
That's great. That sounds like so much fun. And it sounds like a very rewarding experience as well. And you got to work with kids once again, which I know is something that you love even to this
I really do. It's my top passion.
Gotcha. So that was 2018. Tell us about what you're up to today.
What I'm up to today, I mean, with this whole COVID-19 thing, things have kind of shifted for me, but I've been able to advocate in many ways regardless. I've started my own YouTube channel where I read my books and do personal videos where I send out messages of inclusion or acceptance, or I answer people's questions that they may have about me. So that's what I've been doing through social media. I also have written articles for different websites. I did a PSA for the Ruderman Foundation. I also am doing something with the Miami Inclusion Alliance, and they're dealing with people, both children and adults, that have been through different difficult episodes of bullying, so forth. So I've been able to really expand my anti-bullying platform by now advocating for adults as well.
Great, great. Sounds like you stay very busy, even though there's a COVID-19 going on. So that's good.
I do. My mom's like, you're amazing because you're nonstop. Every day you have a new project you're working on. So.
Great, great. Well, I certainly want to tell everyone in the audience, you can find Kat Magnoli on many social media sites as well as her YouTube channel. Kat, I want to thank you for your time today, as well as sharing your path to advocacy in Florida. I know that our audience will also appreciate it. We want to continue our Coffee with Craig series in 2 weeks when we meet Amy Beck, Executive Director of the Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living, who will share all the services that a Center for Independent Living has to offer in your state. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.